right, we're on air. It is Thursday, July 21st. Happy middle of the year, everybody. Let's see. General announcements. Calabox 2, Calabox Beta 2 is out. That is a local development environment using Docker that has native support for Backdrop. If you want to give that a try, it's a pretty cool product. If you would like to make a donation to Backdrop CMS, we will send you a thank you t-shirt or hoodie, or if you're already a Backdrop contributor, it turns out you've already earned your t-shirt, send an email to info@backdropcms.org and we can send those out. Or if you would like a PHP Storm license, those are available to Backdrop Contrib developers, so anyone who's a member of the Backdrop Contrib group. Again, send an email to info@backdropcms.org if you would like a PHP Storm license. I don't have any updates this week. Does anyone else on the PMC have any updates for anyone this week? Nothing super exciting going on already.
It's not really an announcement, but it is related to T-shirts, and that is that we're almost entirely out of the Dragon T-shirts, and so we're going to be printing new backdrop ones, the dark gray ones with just the word backdrop and then the square across the front, because those were both popular and asked for, and we didn't have very many of them in the first place. So, so next round of T-shirts should be coming up soon.
Also we have Gore's hoodie was sadly returned because I apparently didn't know all of the correct stuff to put in the box in order to send something to Canada. So that one's going to go out today. And Jeff, we have one coming your way this afternoon as well. So we'll take those out at the end of this meeting. Okay. Let's see. Community growth update from Clonos. I think you're currently muted.
I say I'm not ready yet. Sorry about that. My laptop is acting up today. So if you can just move on, I'll let you know when I'm ready. All right?
Okay.
Sorry about that.
So Nate did go through and update the numbers. I'm not sure if you saw his note already. So the numbers in there should be accurate, but let us know. We'll skip this and go to infrastructure, and then after infrastructure we can come back.
Okay, I like to change things up a little anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, so so infrastructure tasks. Gore and I have been working prior to my departure for the last 2 weeks. Yeah, but it's great to be back. Yay. So the first item we've got here is testing infrastructure. Testing infrastructure, we've had this ongoing issue that Gore has been making leaps and bounds of improvements to XenCI, which is what we're currently using for our testing framework. We still have Travis CI turned on. I had anticipated turning that off, but I hadn't gotten around to it. But at this point, we really can turn Travis off at any time now. It's really just kind of giving us unnecessary, redundant testing. XenCI runs usually in about 5 minutes, which is awesome. Some recent updates I heard from Gore, but I haven't actually yet seen them in action, is that I think that we now have, or will have in the very near future, live updating as the test results are posted. So we have Ajax updating as that happens. Yes, yay! That's so exciting. Although reloading the page really wasn't that bad since it only took a couple minutes anyway. The live updating of test results is also a huge welcome improvement. So that's great. Oh, and the ability to restart tests, right? I'm reading here from the chat because I know Gore's got a shaky internet connection, but I've heard that he says it's glitchy sometimes. Okay, well, it's getting there. So every now and then we still have random failures occasionally, although we've really mitigated a huge number of random failures, so they're happening a lot less frequently now. So in the near future, we should also be able to restart tests in the event that they fail. I know on Travis CI it never was great anyway, because even the person that created the pull request couldn't restart it. It was only the people that could commit it. So it's great that we have more flexibility now using XenCI, and it's been a great tool, and I'm really excited to see it continue to improve. Let's see. So bring up that I mentioned the agenda. Issue 1947 is the we're using ZenCI and Travis CI issue, I think. Enable. Oh, actually, that one's already been closed. Let's see. I think maybe all of these may have been closed. Okay. We still just have one issue that's like research continuous integration testing platforms besides Travis CI, but I think at this point we could probably close that one out too because we're pretty satisfied with things. There is still the random test failures issue, which is a giant meta issue at 1478. If you get a random fail and there's some you have some idea on how to fix it, please file a pull request and reference issue 1478. We'd love to get the remaining random failures out of our system. Okay, let's see here. Project Packager. So Gore did some additional updates on the Packager that are on my plate to actually get them deployed to backdropcms.org. I did do a code review of the changes to project module, and they all look great. I actually was in the process of reviewing and committing them before I went on vacation, but didn't actually get around to it. So the new package manager Packager, we've had an ongoing problem for about 3 weeks now that GitHub made a change to their API, the way that their zip files are retrieved, that the first time you try to retrieve a zip file, it doesn't work, and then the second time it does. And the real fix to solve that problem is to stop using backdrop HTTP request, which only handles HTTP 1.0, and switch to using curl, which can handle HTTP 1.1, which is what GitHub is using. And that will make it so that our packager works correctly. Some people have noted that if you are creating releases right now that they're not showing up on backdropcms.org, that's the packager. And we're working on fixing that. The link, for some reason, is missing from the agenda, but we'll get the link added to the agenda. And hopefully we'll get that fixed, tested completely and deployed today or tomorrow and next week at the latest, because that's a big problem. Let's see. We also have an issue in here that I haven't seen yet, issue 1992, which is adding an MD5 checksum for project packages, which looks like that would be neat. It's basically just something that, oh, I see, that we would attach along with the release zip an attachment that just gives the MD5 of the archive file so that people know that it hasn't been tampered with, so that you can retrieve the MD5 and then retrieve the archive and then compare them to make sure they're the same thing. Yeah, that looks great. I haven't had a chance to look at that, but it looks like it is interesting. Issue 1992. Okay, great. Thank you for the issue on the packager. That's backdropcms.org issue 264 for the packager. All right, let's see. Drush is the next item on the infrastructure queue here. I'm not sure if there's been anything too new, but Jeff, as the Drush guy, do you have anything that you would like to note about recent Drush changes?
Yeah. Biggest thing is we could use some testers for Drush site install command. Unless, I don't know if people have opinions if I should maybe just merge this stuff and then on the idea that it's useful to people and then they can report bugs if they find them. I don't know, but nobody's bitten on testing for that so far. And that's what's in the air for Drush right now.
Okay, awesome. Let's see, next item. Yeah, that's a good idea. Drush hasn't been, yay, Drush is there, it works. Jen just removed it from, most of it from the agenda, which I think is great. But then she put it back. Maybe she's just reorganizing things. I'll stop talking about what she's doing to the agenda. The next item on the infrastructure task list is the flagship website, backdropcms.org. We're currently working on a number of things here. Jen, do you want to give the update on backdropcms.org?
Or so, sorry, I was just trying to remove the stuff we weren't talking about this week. But anyway, yes, backdropcms.org. We are currently working on the showcase section. In the design call today, we did another review of what the showcase section looks like. We've got designs ready. We just need to build that out. So if anyone has sites they want to throw into the showcase section, now would be a good time to do it. All set up with all the right fields on it. We're just working on setting up layout and getting the CSS to make it look as pretty as the design. But we are going to need the content. So anytime you want to add sites you're working on or sites you've done, that would be great. We also have single sign-on with GitHub. I've got a local version of that working, but I want to push it up to our servers and do some testing on it in the wild, where my test machine can actually connect to GitHub. So I'll try and get to that today and see if we can get some feedback on that. We also are continuing to flesh out the support section of our website, including two really important additions, the documentation section, which is coming along really well. We've got a bunch of great content on the site already getting fleshed out, which will, I think, help people find their way around Backdrop better. And also the forum section, which I know in the past few weeks there's been a lot of progress on the forum module, which we removed from core, added to contrib, and then they started cleaning that up and making it work more like we'd like to see it work in Backdrop, with default views and configurations that put stuff together rather than a whole bunch of custom code. So I'm going to take a look at that and see where that's coming along and see if there's anything we need that isn't there or anything that we don't need that is there. See kind of what the diff is between where we're headed and where we're at. And I'm looking forward to playing with that too. So there's a bunch of other stuff we're working on that can always use some attention. The usage statistics, we have those collecting now. We'd love to get them displaying on the project pages. Find modules, themes, and layouts pages can always use a little update. We've got some more complete designs than are actually implemented on the site. So if anyone wants to throw a couple minutes in getting some of those new features up, that would be good. And there's also a bunch of follow-up issues for blog news, the blog news section that'll just kind of make it a little bit more useful to people. Same thing, we've got some follow-up issues for event listings that will allow people to filter for events near them. And same thing for service provider listings. We've got follow-ups that will allow you to look for service providers or contractors in your area or for a specific focus. So if we could just get like filters added to views and that stuff, there's a couple of kind of low-hanging fruit, site builder-y type tasks that we could knock off pretty quickly, I think. All right, should we turn it back over to Jeff for release information?
Yeah, that's issue 2013 regarding Drupal 7.50, which was a ton of features and bug fixes. So some of those I think should be a 1.5 target. I'm not. Some of the one is adding support for UTF-8 characters, which would be great, but probably put that in 1.5 rather than 1.44. So I think we'll have to maybe go through the list and say this one's 1.44, this one's 1.5. If that seems okay with people. We've been making some progress, I think, in that issue, getting through importing the relevant ones over to Backdrop and marking the other ones not applicable.
So it looks like, Nate, is this you that's updating the security section?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a note of it. Okay.
You want to say it out loud?
Oh, sorry. I didn't know Jeff. Yeah, Jeff was done with 1.4.4. Yeah, thanks for making that issue, by the way. That's really great that we, for people that haven't seen this before, every single time we make a new version of Drupal comes out, we work to make sure that every change that is in the minor release for Drupal 7 also ends up in the next release of Backdrop. So that's great to get those things ported over. I wanted to make a note because the Drupal core update came out this week, and there was a public service announcement the week before about several Backdrop contrib modules that had remote code execution problems in them. And we posted an announcement via Twitter that the core issue, or sorry, the contrib issue that happened last week did not affect any existing Backdrop contrib projects, so that's great. And also, oops, that's meant to be 8.1.13. The HTTP proxy vulnerability that was announced this past Monday also does not affect Backdrop because that particular vulnerability was in Guzzle, not in core proper. And so Backdrop not using Guzzle, we also didn't have that problem. But we have not made an announcement to that effect that the core issue also does not affect Backdrop. Although, I don't know, like every time Drupal 8 comes out with a core release, I mean, in the future it's going to become increasingly inconsistent, I guess you could say. Like when Drupal 8 has a security release, it's kind of unlikely to affect Backdrop or Drupal 7 for that matter because the code bases are extremely different at this point. However, I do think for the sake of putting hearts and minds at rest that it would be a good idea for us to make an announcement every time any core security issue is announced that doesn't affect Backdrop. Anyway, that's all I got there, is that Backdrop just is not affected by those issues.
So I think we should do both a node on the Backdrop site under the security section, but we should also tweet too, because that way people, well, it does two things. Number one, anyone who's worried about it will find out via Twitter if they're on Twitter, but it also kind of makes Backdrop look good, where it's like, oh, we're on top of things, and no, you don't need to worry about it. So I was thinking about that, making sure enough people have access to the Twitter account so that if something like that needs to come out and, you know, the four of us who we usually tweet are otherwise indisposed, just making sure like everybody had access to it. So maybe we should come up with some like clever way to like share important passwords through the PMC, so that we can just throw all that stuff up, and then that way it's like, oh, I need access to whatever, and then you can go to whatever and get, I don't know, how do you securely share passwords these days? Yeah. We should figure something out.
Yeah, yeah. There's lots of tools for that.
Okay.
GP. Yeah. The best. Oh boy. Yeah, but there's lots of great solutions to that. Meldium, Lullabot used for a little while. We switched over to LastPass at Lullabot, but LastPass I don't think is free for those sorts of services. Yeah, but great ideas. I love the idea. More access to more people is always, I mean, to a certain point, it's always a good thing because yeah, we really want to share, distribute that responsibility. Okay, yeah. Let's see. Next item: important bug fixes. There's a number of items that are really important that we get fixed as soon as possible. If any one of these gets fixed, we'll make a bug fix release of Backdrop as soon as it's well tested. There's one issue, 1985, that if you are a CSS wizard, specifically Flexbox, and solving browser-specific bugs just sounds like your idea of a great weekend, then please take a look at issue 1985, which is a Safari-specific bug that we're trying to work out with our Flexbox-based layouts.
I think Wes got that fixed by making Safari use the float fallback.
Well, anyway, yeah. Oh, go ahead, Wes.
I updated last meeting. I don't think there's a way to fix it. It's a pretty nasty Safari bug, so I'm just forcing Safari to fail the Flexbox feature test, which will trigger the float CSS fallback.
Wow. Is there any? I mentioned to Jen that rather than doing any kind of browser detection, if we can somehow do a JavaScript-based feature detection to actually.
That's what I made it as strict as I can, and it's still passing on El Capitan.
Oh, really? You mean like you tried to do a feature detect and it just didn't work?
Yeah, that's the default. That's the default method. Is we're doing feature detection, but yeah, the newest version of OS 10 will pass with flying colors. If so, I don't know what to do other than user agent sniffing.
Boo. Okay. Well. Yeah. So more. Yeah.
If anyone else wants to get crack at it, I'd love to not do user agent sniffing.
Even more wizards, it sounds like. Well, we'll get together and cast a spell, like in a circle or something, and then we can get Safari to work the way we want eventually, maybe. Okay. Another great bug that we need to get fixed is if you upload an image via CK editor in certain contexts, like when editing a block, for example, the images can get deleted by the temporary file cleanup, which is really annoying. That's issue 1373. I know, Jeff, you've done some work on fixing that and have been waiting for review for ages. I've got the packager, I think, is going to be my first thing, and then I'll return back around to that one. Let's see. CK editor unloads on AJAX requests is issue 1564. There's an RTBC for this, but I don't think it's possible to write tests for this. Yeah, that's totally true, because we don't have JavaScript testing at this point in time. Awesome. I'll take a look at that, and if it just looks like it's a straight-up fix, and you've already looked at it, Jeff, then we can get it merged in. Okay, great. Well, that might be the reason for making 1.4.4 then. Okay, let's see. That's it for important bug fixes. The next release, minor release, is September 15th, 2016, the 1.5.0 release that we're calling the editorial experience release. The biggest ticket item for this release is the addition of reference module, which right now is moved into Contrib, and there's also a core issue at 1301. It doesn't look like reference has seen a whole lot of action recently. It looks like about a month ago we had a couple of changes to reference module, which is great, but there's still a whole lot of things that need to be done there. Mike has moved it into a Contrib project, so if anyone is interested in collaborating on that, and you're a member of the Contrib group, you actually already have access, but for now you can file pull requests. Mike will review them. He also, I'm sure, would be open to collaborating directly if you feel experienced enough to just commit directly to the project. Then that would be a great way to do that as well. Once the Contrib version is looking good, we'll do a review as a pull request to get merged into core itself. And we do need to worry about a lot of other things like upgrade paths for existing modules, node reference, user reference, and entity reference modules. But how we tackle those hasn't yet been officially resolved. So whether that's like there's a Contrib project that does it, or a drush command that does it, or some other way that we do the upgrade, it's built into core itself. We need to figure that item out. Okay, next item for the 1.5 release is the new front-end theme in core called Basis. It's issue 1361. Wes, do you want to give a short update on that?
Sure. I asked for a review last week and got lots of issues, so I'm going to take a look at those today. And yeah, Nate, whenever you get a chance, probably after I fix these issues, want to make sure that there's nothing else standing in the way. And yeah, blocked on responsive menu right now. Need some back-end help if anyone wants to help me with that. And then going to also try and work on color module or some sort of color settings integration.
Cool. Yeah, this has probably been mentioned before, but I am really a fan of putting in the stuff that we have and then iterating on it later. If that means that Basis becomes like the new core theme in 1.5, but the color module integration doesn't land until 1.6, I would be totally fine with that. Okay, let's see. There's also the to-do checklist. Looks like it's an item in here, as well as the homepage layout that you're marked for giving updates on, Wes. Are you up for that?
To-do list, and what's the other one?
The homepage layout.
I think the homepage layout Jen's tackling. The to-do list I have mocked up, and it needs a back-end developer, basically.
Okay. So this is what happens when we're not on a meeting for 2 weeks. Jen gets really excited about reorganizing the agenda. Okay. Well, the last item that we have in here for the 1.5 major features, I guess you'd call them minor features, is improving the rich text editor, which is issue 1087. And that's a meta issue that has a number of different things in it. Things like copy-paste image supports, better media browser, a lot of different items that would really improve our rich text editor. I haven't looked at them recently, but I don't think that there's any real lead on that particular issue. I'm really familiar with the CK editor stuff, but I'm tied up in a lot of other things. So if anybody is interested in becoming kind of the project lead on improving our rich text editor experience, we're looking for contributors there. And I'm happy to help anyone that is looking into it. Okay, let's see. We also have a bunch of other issues tagged in the 1.5 release. You can get them on GitHub by visiting the 1.5 milestone or using the link in the agenda. Let's see. Also, things beyond 1.5, we have a roadmap, backdropcms.org/roadmap. Although I think items for 1.6 are really pretty open at this point. So I guess it's a great idea if you have ideas, big long-term plans. We'd love to get those added as potential items in the future, which I know some of them we will be talking about really shortly here. So I'll just throw out a note in here because it's in the agenda. We're also always trying to improve user experience and developer experience issues. You can find those issues by searching for UX or DX in square brackets in the GitHub issue queue. Speaking of later than 1.5 releases, later than 1.5 features, Mike is here. Hello, Mike. Thank you for joining us. And you've been working on doing some items to address long-term core security releases, like making automatic updates possible. I know it was mentioned last week during the call, but Jen and I weren't there. Do you want to give a quick recap on kind of your thought process there and what potential options we could do for Backdrop?
Yeah, I don't remember what I said last week. Well, so you've read my article. Have you looked? I've got a number of other things that I've thrown out online since the TC Drupal camp, which is kind of what got me going on this. So probably the most interesting one is sort of a design document that I have on GitHub, and sort of my intention there is to, because this is very hard, and doing it correctly is an iterative process, and so just having a markdown document that sort of evolves as better ways are discovered might be a nice way to come up with a good plan. See if I have that. I have been sorely guilty of not really posting issues to the backdrop issues in your GitHub repo, but it looks like other people have totally picked up the slack on that. Is that Gregory, it looks like? Issue 2024. And oh, nice. That actually links to my CMS auto update design proposal as it exists so far. I guess one of the things that I said last week that's worth mentioning is that I just feel like auto updates should be a thing in CMSs. And right now, one of the big three has it, and I've looked into how they do it, and they could do it a lot better. So I'm sort of thinking my strategy here is I want to do like the technical, work on the technical components to do it better than it's done before, and to hopefully also do it for a wider range of sites than it's done before on. Specifically, I think it'd be really cool if we had a reasonably secure solution for sites that can't write to their source tree but do have FTP access, which is a pretty common model. And I've come up with some cool ideas for how that could actually be done by like pre-sharing FTP credentials with the organization that pushes the updates, so that those credentials, can be pushed back to the site and sit in memory for the 3 minutes that the update needs to be applied or whatever. So that's a thought. And so yeah, but my point, I guess, is that whatever project wants to take this on, if it's Backdrop or if it's Drupal or if it's another one, that's cool with me, or multiple of them. But I'm just hoping that that at least one of them does, and then if I work on trying to solve some of these problems, it'll get used. So with that said, I'm interested to hear what the Backdrop community thinks about all of the other requirements that this would imply in terms of like, at least if you ask me, you shouldn't do auto updates unless you are supporting releases. You're supporting past releases as well, because I don't think that you should, I don't think that it's that great of a user experience to push out a lot of moving parts that the site owner doesn't even have a chance to see if this is still doing all the things that I want. I mean, like, it's almost surely not going to break. But, if you keep the changes to the very minimum possible, it's much more likely that they're not going to break. And consequently, that's an additional sort of burden to the Backdrop project then, right? To maintain those backports.
Yep.
Also, it's just a sort of a philosophical question of, do you want to have auto updates at all, because it's complicated software and it might have problems too, and that might, it's a risk just to have the feature too, right? So.
Yeah, we've got a lot of items here philosophically even to solve. Like, all implementation aside, right now, the reality, it's hardly even policy, it's just what is actually done, is that we haven't yet encountered a situation in which we've felt the need to extensively provide like a patch-based release for every version of Backdrop, because we haven't had a security release that has been like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. Like, we should make a minor release of like, a bug fix release of like 1.0.0, 1.0.7 or something like that, as well as 1.1.7 and 1.2.6 or whatever, However, I do think that would be a great policy for us to strive for, that given security issues, if we were able to make a bug fix release for every version, every minor release to within limits, like let's say like within the last 2 years or something like that, which in our case would be, because we have 4 minor releases a year, that would be, 3 minor releases a year, that would be 2 years worth of support if you supported 6 minor releases backwards. And I think that would be like a good thing for us to strive for. What that would mean, like how automatic updates would actually be facilitated. I mean, there's definitely some processes that need to be changed. Like we would need to make releases first of all of each minor version going back for 2 years if that occurred, and we would probably also need additional tools. Like, in my opinion, I've thought about handling automatic updates in various ways, but I think, like you pointed out, Drupalgeddon was a great example. That it was a one-line change, and if that one-line change could have been automatically deployed, if we would have had some tool to do that, then that would have been great. But just replacing files wholesale, like taking the core directory and like replacing other people's core directories automatically, is super dangerous because lots of people hack core or modify core, and we can't really, in order to actually be effective, we'd want it to apply even if they had hacked core, because we don't even, not everybody follows everything. Yeah, exactly. So Gore just brought up patching, and I think that's really probably the most universal way of doing it would be if we could somehow, when we made a core release, also make a core patch, and then have a checkbox on backdropcms.org that was like, this is a security update, automatically push if possible, kind of functionality that said, this is a core release that we have a patch for that should automatically be applied to all existing installations. And then the actual problem of applying the patch is a whole. Now that is the big question. I think from our side, we want to provide the processes and we want to provide the policy in order to make automatic updates possible, and then the technical implementation of that is the big question mark.
Yeah, the idea of patches, I feel like I've been getting a little bit carried away with crazy features and possible things to do, but I hadn't even really thought about trying to patch stuff, deal with people that hacked it. Okay, that's
so
something else.
Anyway, from a community standpoint, I think that we want to try to make automatic updates possible. That's kind of all that I really know for certain. And I think your article makes all of the good points, and that you said it quite eloquently, that it's written into our mission statement to make things affordable, and this is a big issue for affordability, and that it would be really walking the walk if we could make that happen.
Yeah, and I don't know, I'm really glad to hear that, by the way, first of all. But also, maybe it's a little bit too soon, but one of the other things that's not strictly automatic updates, but that is very closely related to what you've been talking about with patching minor releases back for N years, is once that gets beyond the level of things being talked about in a Google Hangout a little bit into something that I guess you call it the PMC really supports, like, you should put that, if you ask me, front and center on your website somewhere, the number of years, right? This release is supported until whatever date it comes out to be, so that's really easy for people to know. I don't know. To me, that's like a big selling point. Maybe other people wouldn't feel that way, but
yeah, I think that is super important. I think that there's a lot that we can do right now to kind of help us get there. Like, I think if we could take a look at, we haven't had a lot of serious security issues, but if we could take a look at our releases and say, like, okay, well, we do have this security release. What we're going to do is create a patch, and I don't know if we need to just provide the checkbox or not, whether it does anything of like auto apply if possible, and just kind of put all the pieces together now, even though they aren't necessarily doing anything, and we can figure out the, like, how do you auto update thing. I think we even already have an issue for that because it's been on our mind for a while about that making long-term website ownership cheaper. But as far as security release is going, being ready and having a process that's like, okay, should Modulegeddon happen again, only it is relevant to Drupal 7 core and Backdrop core, like, how are we going to, what is our process for doing this? How many releases are we going to make for Backdrop? I think that would be good to have a plan. So that would say, okay, we'll make a release for every version back to 1.0. We'll put a patch file for every version 1 to 1.0. We write somewhere 1.0 is supported until January 15th, 2017. And then we just start doing that. And I think that would be great first steps And then when we get auto-updating out, we can figure out how to cross some of these other technical problems we have in terms of what people may or may not have done to their own sites, whether we give people an on-off switch to be able to save themselves from themselves if they know how to find it. If we can find a way that will work agnostically on all hosting platforms, or how we're going to be able to actually apply the patches when they come out. And then if you have a patched version of core, how do you notify the person that the version they're running is a patched version? There's a bunch of little tiny hurdles we'll have to resolve too. Nate, I think you got muted again.
Yeah, well, let's discuss it in the meta issue 2024, which thanks, Gregory, for making that item. Okay, well, let's keep trucking along here so we fit within our hour. We haven't had the community growth section. Gregory, are you ready to give that update?
Yeah, sorry about that. It feels like the last couple of Hangouts, it needs to be moved at the end of the agenda. Sorry about that, guys. Will give me more time. Anyways, not much changed since last week. We have 290 total projects on Backdrop CMS. That's +1 since last meeting. We have 202 projects with official releases on backdropcms.org, which is, again, +1 since last meeting. 299 releases on backdropcms.org, which again is +1 since last meeting. And not much has changed when it comes to total Backdrop contributors. It's 54 for like 3 weeks now, no change. And the same goes for the 13 pending application for new contributors. I know I have promised to go through the queue and try to help these guys out and see if they're stuck, but I didn't have time to do that. Moving on, 24 organization profiles on backdropcms.org, not a change there. And then 295 total user accounts on backdropcms.org, which is more since last meeting. That's it.
Great. Nate's walked away, so I guess I'll take over. Thanks for that update. I went ahead and moved the community growth section to the end of the agenda. We can do that for a couple weeks and see how that goes. It might also be kind of exciting to end on a positive note where it's like, look at us growing. So that could be a good permanent place for that anyway. We do have a community outreach.
For the last, there was no growth. It was like only one person of that. Not that exciting. But yeah, it's summertime for half the hemisphere, so it explains things.
So next week, the 28th, we are supposed to be doing another community outreach meeting. So that's something that Mike and I met together last week or last month to talk about what kinds of outreach we could be doing. And the meeting was kind of focused around like how to target the content on the website towards our intended target audience rather than just ideas that the people who made it had, which is what it has been. And I think he's got some pretty good ideas about how to do that. I would love to get some more involvement for people who know how to do community outreach that's other than our website, like better ways to use our newsletter, better things we should be doing with social networking, if we should be placing ads on Google or other sites that specifically target people who are trying to get off Drupal. Would be like, no, don't leave, come to Backdrop. I don't know how to do any of that crazy marketing stuff. So if we have anyone who wants to help us kind of figure out the outreach piece, that would be good too. Maybe also some lists of events that we should consider getting Backdrop more involved in. Like right now, our list of events that we are aware of is kind of limited to Drupal events because that's what most of us have been doing for a good long period of time. There's a bunch of other like open source conferences and meetups and other stuff that might be good to get involved with. So it would be good to get some help with that too. So next Thursday, this is going to be the hour before our usual developer meeting, so it'll be 12 noon Pacific time. We're going to try and do a content strategy meeting if any of you want to come. I'll try and whip up an agenda today, and we'll tweet about it next week and see if we can get some more feedback and figure out what to do. Okay, blog schedule. We're a little behind on blogging. We need to write up one about Twin Cities Drupal Camp. I don't know, Mike, you're still here. If you'd be interested in writing up a recap of that. Oh, Jack, do you have something to say?
Yeah, can folks hear me? Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Sorry. Just on the community involvement thing, I don't know if this is the right moment for a report back, but I did the N10 Drupal Community of Practice. N10 is the Nonprofit Technology Education Network. It's a mouthful. I did that call a few weeks ago. There was lots of positive reaction. People were definitely interested. It was hard to figure out exactly how to channel folks after that. Like, folks were like, yay! I didn't really know how to harness that, so that might be something to think about in terms of when we're doing the community outreach. So kind of just, it went well. People are interested in the Drupal community, the nonprofit community for sure. But yeah, thinking about continuing that engagement after we do like a one-off event, I think is also important. So
maybe we need to figure out what our call to action is. Like if we need to get them on the mailing list and then use the mailing list, that might be a good way to do that.
That's kind of what I was thinking. Right now, the call to action was, I should have mentioned Calabox, but just mentioning Pantheon was actually kind of helpful. I mentioned you could spin it up and play with it, and that definitely sold some folks. So mailing list, even if we're not using it, you know, we can always gather the folks first. So.
Okay, that sounds great. And then do you have time or energy to do a write-up on N10 and Backdrop, even if it's just a paragraph or two?
Time and energy are short these days. There's not tons to say. Let me think about if I could come up with an idea.
Had, like,
that
4 weeks to do it.
Don't make it kind of old. It happened like a couple weeks ago or last week. Let me. I'm gonna contemplate it, and I'll try to write something real quick. So.
Okay. I think even just like 2 short paragraphs is fine. Just be like, we were here. It was good. Letting people know we're doing things is good. That's kind of my plan for I've got to do a Twin Cities Drupal Camp 1 too, unless Mike wanted to do that. Same thing.
Sounds
like
good. I actually, I think I can manage it, especially because people took notes on the conversation really well, so I could cheat off of that. So yeah, I'm down for that.
Hooray! What do you think, Mike?
So I guess I got the sense from what I attended that like it's a very similar talk to talks that you give before, and so I wonder if there consequently is also a blog post very similar to the blog post you'd be posting. Like what would you be featuring?
Yeah, I mean, I think like what we're really looking for is on the website to have people know we're doing stuff, and in particular, what I think is most interesting about what happened at Twin Cities Drupal Camp is not the content of the talk, because that is very similar from time to time, but what's kind of sparked from it. And I think the reason that I would love to have you write that is because what the most exciting thing to me is coming out of Twin Cities Camp is all of this talk about actual commitment to security updates, automatic updates. Like that is the most exciting piece to me of what came out of that whole thing. It's like, yeah, we did a training and yeah, we did a session. Mention those, but that's like just kind of one sentence. And the more exciting thing is like, look at all this cool stuff we're doing now because of that thing happened. And I don't know, we aren't decided on any of that yet, but just kind of saying like, one person's idea can change the world. It's kind of the message there. So.
We'll see. I've been doing a lot of writing. I've had one day in which I could actually write code towards this since Drupal Camp, because I've been writing on Drupal.org and writing on my blog and writing on GitHub and writing on other places about it. And so I'm a little bit burned out on that right now.
Would it be okay if I wrote the post up that linked to all of these things that you've been writing and had you review it before it went up? Okay, let's do that then, because I think like that's the angle I want to take is like, look what Mike did, which would be good if it was coming from you, but I understand that you've done a lot of that. So if we could just get you to review what goes up, that would be enough for me.
All right, awesome.
Okay. Let's see, other things we have to talk about. Nate is working on a core committer blog post, maybe. And then we need to get a newsletter out. And I think maybe now might be a good time to do, so we've got this queued newsletter that's like Backdrop 1.4, but it might be good to add a section about security updates and send that, because then it'll be like, here's what's in 1.4. By the way, all the security stuff just came out, and here's what you need to know. Might be good, like, reason to do that right away. Especially if we can get this last bug fix release for into 1.4.4. That would be good too. All right, so that's the end of our news announcements section. Today, everybody will meet together on GitHub and Gitter and solve all of our problems. It'll be fantastic. Or at least we'll just play with some code, which is also pretty fun. Upcoming events, we have a list of events on backdropcms.org. There are events that are Backdrop related in one way or another, whether they're events where we're presenting or doing a training or just doing a BOF. They're all available for you to browse. And if anyone is attending any websites or any conferences that are not on the website, please feel free to add them. It should be available for anyone to create an event node. We also have 2 books out now on Backdrop. Beginning Backdrop is out. You can buy it on Apress or Amazon. Migrating from Drupal to Backdrop is also out. Oh, I haven't ordered. I want to order the other book, the Beginning Backdrop book. That looks like it's going to be super exciting too. So we'll show those off shortly. All right. Anything else anyone is dying to talk about today? We've got 4 minutes left. Everyone's exhausted. All right. Well, I've queued up a lot of tabs of things I want to check in on today. But I'll see you guys in Gitter. Thank you all for coming and joining. Thank you especially, Mike, for your diligent writing for the last few weeks. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that, that it seems so straightforward and that you are so receptive to what I'm advocating here. It's not that easy other places. So
We love enthusiasm. We like to reciprocate because, yeah, every person makes a big difference in our little world.
very cool.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And we'll catch you guys next week. Or online sooner. Yay. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.